Om Aganatimanandasyam Ganakanasakya Chaksurun Miritam Yanatashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Snapitam Yanabhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Jivishikhanvitam Stam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jigatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surito Pangor Mama Mater Mater Giti Matsavasya Padam Boja Radha Ramadana Mohanam Sriman Rasa Rasaram Vivam Siva Karsan Venusanurpiko Gopinata Sri Sanam Divyad Brindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagata Shima Sanashto Sri Sirada Shila Govinda Deva Prasadavihi Seva Manushmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chajigatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaham Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Guru Rajaja Mangalam Pariksho Mangalayatano Hari Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Vidmahi Vishnu Padni Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hari Pre Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Dhyanire Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Pre Namam Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pasaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamanu Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Vishes Sanyavati Praskata De Satharini Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Welcome. While I clear my throat to Transcendental Tuesday, Rob, you have a word for us before we launched here today?
Hare Krishna. No, just that every day is a new opportunity to do better than the last day, an opportunity for forward progress.
That's a good spirit to start the day with. Thank you for that. Jenna Tarney, good morning. She says that Facebook hasn't been working for her in the past few days, so we've missed hearing her comments, but apparently it is working for her today, so that's good news. And Govinda Dev, thank you very much for joining us here on this Tuesday morning. I don't know about Salt Lake City, but we had quite a bit of rain last night. I can't remember when we've had a good rain, but that drought was broken to some degree last night. Pretty much drizzled and rained and poured on occasion all night long. So it's good for the gardens. We're starting to get tons and tons of cucumbers and zucchinis as well as squash. We expect that the melons and tomatoes as well as the green peppers and corn are going to come a little bit later. But if you'd like to taste squash in about 6 different ways, come and visit us at the buffet here. Anytime. We're open 7 days a week from 11 till 6 Monday through Saturday and 11 till 3 on Sunday. Good morning, Brent. We're revisiting this verse for the 8th time. Part 8, 22nd verse, 7th chapter, 1st canto. Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Yankara Tamiko Danyamana Abhavargo Sisamsida. Arjuna says to Krishna, you are Mahabaho, you are mighty armed. Bhaktanam Vyankara, there's no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material existence can find the path of liberation in you only. Our hashtag for this entire series would be hashtag no fear. People talk about that. That was a real popular saying a few years ago. I don't know if it still has the same level of popularity it did, but a few years ago you saw no fear on sports shoes, athletic shoes, you saw it on t-shirts, you saw it all over the internet. And yet that can hardly be true, because if you want to go to that place where there's no fear, you have to go to the spiritual world. This material world is far from being known as the place of no fear. It's being known as the place in which no one is exempt from fear. However you may claim to be fearless, nobody is immune from anxiety, hypertension, and fear in this material world. That's the hallmark. That's the symptom of this material world. But we find dotted throughout history of the cosmos examples of devotees who took full shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, after all, created, maintains, and eventually annihilates all of these material created worlds. Those who have taken shelter of him historically in the past have attained something which is almost unattainable in this material world, which is a state of fearlessness. There's very rare examples, and those examples that are there are worth studying and looking into in the hopes that we can pick up on their attitude, their devotion, their steadfastness, and follow in their footsteps. The secrets of character, of steadfastness, the secrets of devotion are contained within the hearts of the fearless devotee of the Lord. So if we have a look into their hearts, we will learn the secret of what it means and what it takes to become like them, fearless. Now, as you know, Vasudev and Devaki were awarded the parentage of Krishna. They were awarded the great facility of having Krishna as their child. They had done austerities in their previous lives. Usually when people approach God, they go to the temple. They have an attitude, what can God do for me? But Devaki's attitude was, what can I do for God? Ask not what God can do for you, but ask what you can do for God. That's the difference between devotees and non-devotees. Even amongst religious people, there are those two camps. The camp that you want to use God as their order supplier, their step and fetch it, and the camp that want to serve God out of gratitude for all that God has abundantly endowed us with. Of course, Devaki, as well as Yashoda Mai, the foster mother of Krishna, were in the latter camp. They wanted not to know what God can do for them, but they wanted to know what they could do for God. Following their footsteps, every time we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We're not praying to God to give us stuff. We're praying to God to allow us the privilege of rendering service to his lotus feet, service to his servants, servant of the 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 servant, and so on and so forth. Devaki and Yashoda Mai were in that camp, and so the Lord, realizing that he was going to descend paritranaya sadhanam vinashatishkanam in order to protect the devotees and to destroy the miscreants. Often the Lord sends his devotees almost intentionally for those devotees to be harassed by the non-devotees, and then for the Lord to intervene at the dramatic moment. Leela, or pastime, is all divinely arranged by the Lord, and it may seem on occasion that the devotee is done. That's all she wrote. There is no chance the devotee is under a cloud. The devotee's effulgence and good qualities are hardly visible underneath the garbage heap of the antagonism of those who are non-devotees. Consider the case of Devaki and her husband Vasudev. On their marriage day, if you've ever been to an Indian marriage, they are the most happy occasions. Parents lavish, especially the parents of the bride, will lavish funds on travel for the guests, accommodation for the guests, paying for the priests and the paraphernalia, gifts, the ceremony itself. Parents love their children, and they don't spare any expense on the happy occasion of their children getting married. And generally the cost of a marriage is borne primarily by the bride's parents. And so this was Devaki's happiest day. She was getting married to Vasudev. She was going to be living with her sisters because Vasudev had married her older sisters as well. And so not only was she getting her husband, but she was also rejoining her sisters in the house of her new husband. And her apparently doting cousin brother, Kamsa, had agreed to drive the chariot, showing his affection for his cousin sister Devaki, Kamsa agreed to drive the chariot after the wedding ceremony. Generally, the wedding ceremony will take place in the groom's home, and at the conclusion of the wedding ceremony, there'll be a processional wherein the bride and some of her best friends will accompany the groom to his home. She'll be leaving her paternal home and going in procession to the home of her new husband. So this is a very gala, celebratory affair, and everybody wants to support the bride. She's lived her whole life with her brothers and her father. She's not known any other men. Unlike today, she didn't go to a co-ed school. She didn't freely intermingle with boys from an early age. The only males that she'd known up to that point in her time were her father and her brothers. So you can imagine, her marriage is arranged to Vasudev. We can only imagine she's considerably comforted by the fact that Vasudev is married to her older sisters, and she's probably got pretty favorable reports back from them through the grapevine. And so she's probably not as anxious as most brides. But anyway, the principle is that this girl is going to, for the first time, leave her paternal home in which she's grown up and spent most of her time. You know, the single ladies lived pretty much in privacy. They didn't go out and intermingle in those days. And so there normally would be a level of concern, level of anxiety on the part of the bride going out of the home for the first time, leaving the protective shelter of her brothers. Brothers are always looking after their sister and their father. There's no love quite like the love that a father has for his daughter. So she's leaving that. She's leaving the rooftop under which she spent her whole life and going to, with a man she doesn't know, to a home that she doesn't know. And so this is a time to support her, to encourage her. Some of her best friends accompany her. Her husband is there, being as kind as he can. And in this case, Kamsa wanted to join in a show of support for his cousin sister Devaki, to the point that Kamsa was driving her chariot. And you can imagine Kamsa was exhibiting all kinds of affection, speaking supportive words to Devaki during the course of this procession. However, as we know from the Krishna book, in mid-procession, a voice, Akashvani, comes out of the sky and says, Kamsa, you fool, you're driving the chariot of your sister, and what you don't know is that her 8th son will kill you. So all that affection that Kamsa had for Devaki evaporated in a moment. In a moment, he put it all aside. And right there, at the time when traditionally the brother would have supported the sister most staunchly, right in front of her husband, right out in public, all the relatives and friends and well-wishers. Imagine what a heinous character Hamsa was. And by what is it that makes Kamsa so despicable and shameless? It is the fact that instead of being attached to the Lord from within the heart, who is the dearest and the dearmost friend of all living beings, Kamsa is attached to this bag of mucus, bile, and phlegm. Instead of being attached to the luminescent, effulgent, eternal, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kamsa is attached to this bag of bones and stool and urine and blood and pus covered by a few hairs on the top of a head and a mustache. It says, Krishna says, Atma Maham Datam Prashdashan Prayashamabhi. I am the soul of all souls. Within each soul, Krishna says, I am the soul. So if you love yourself, then you love Krishna. If you love Krishna, you love yourself, because Krishna is the soul of your soul. Therefore, Prashtam Shan Prayashamabhi, he is the dearest of the dearest. To each and every person, we are the dearest, right? Just like Kamsa. Kamsa is putting himself above his sister. He's willing to kill her in public in order to preserve his own sense of self, his own carcass. But the Lord is the soul of our soul. He's the soul of ourself. So he is the dearest of the dear. If you love yourself, then you should love the Lord, because the Lord is your best, well-wishing friend. He accompanies you in the region of the heart. And there's nothing that you can do unless it's by the sanction of the Lord. If I raise my hands like this, it's not actually me doing it, but it's the Lord allowing and permitting. He is living within our heart of hearts as our well-wisher, our witnesser, the proprietor of our body, the permitter, the actual doer. Whatever successes we achieve in life, whatever blessings come our way, those are by the divine arrangement of the Lord. So one shouldn't be short-sighted. One shouldn't just see one's best interest in terms of the body and the mind, but one should realize that we're animated, we're alive, we're enjoying this day only because there is a soul inside our soul. There's the Paramatma, the oversoul, or the super soul, who is the pervader, the supporter, the proprietor, and our well-wishing friend. So this statement is made, Atma Atmaram Dada Preshtam Presham Ato Mayi Maya Kuryad. Unfortunately, instead of being attached in a very natural, intelligent way to the all-powerful Lord who exists within the hearts of all living beings, we, for the most part, in this material world, have this degraded, debased attachment. Instead, Deha Bir Yatkrite Priya, our affection, is for this body instead of for the soul of all souls. Lamentable situation. Really fallen. I mean, this puts teeth to the term fallen, isn't it? It puts a face to it. And that face is the face of Kamsa, who on a dime, in a nanosecond, as soon as that thing which was most dear to him, not the Lord, but his body was threatened, was under threat, he was willing to sacrifice his own sister in public, no less, on the day that should have been her happiest day, and the day that his job was to support her. Instead of doing that, as soon as the voice predicted that her 8th son would kill Kamsa, he grabbed her by the hair, pulled out his sword, and prepared to kill his own sister, just for what's called Deha Bir Yatkrite Priya, love of the body. Fortunately, Vasudev had a head on his shoulders, and he intervened. He said, "My dear Kamsa, there's time. It's her 8th son will kill you. You have nothing to fear now. Chill, my brother-in-law, chill. This is way down, who knows? This is a vague, a by and by, someday, maybe somewhere, sort of a prediction. There's nothing specific. There is no immediate threat to you. 8th, yet that's not going to happen for at least 10, 12 years. So you're a warrior. You've waded into battle. You've contended with arrows and javelins and swords with lethal opponents over and over and over again. Why are you demeaning yourself out of fear of something that may not even happen? He says, if you're worried about the 8th son of my wife, I promise you I will bring her to you. Now, Vasudev was known throughout the whole world. He was also known as Adhikadum Dobya, one who never breaks his word, who's never told a lie. So you could bank on the promises of Vasudev. And then Vasudev saw that he hadn't completely convinced Kamsa, so then he went a step further. He said, in case the prophecy is a little off, in case the prophesier can't count quite accurately, and you have any doubt that you might think it might be the 7th or 6th or the 5th or the 4th son, I will bring you personally each one of my wife's sons as they're born, and you can do whatever you want with them. Kamsa considered that. And remember, he's in public, and it was a very reasonable proposal that Vasudev made to him, and so he could not very well override Vasudev's proposal. It was an offer that he could not refuse. Later, he did have second thoughts, and so in order to keep Vasudev and Devaki close to him so that he could monitor her births one after another, later on, he imprisoned them in his prison house there in Mathura. So the immediate crisis was averted, but it's interesting to note that because of bodily consciousness, one can commit any crime, even publicly, even to one's own dear and near sister, even in front of one's relatives. One can heap upon oneself infamy, ill repute, negative notoriety. One can sink to any level to do anything for the sake of this body. There's a verse in the 10th canto of the book. Oh, what is it? Dusanam sahasranam akotum koru karya. It says, what? How can devotees of the Lord not be independent? What cannot be given up by one who wants to serve the Supreme Lord? And then it says, Kimakaryam kadaram bam. Kim dusham nisharam vidusham kimakaryam kadaram dusham kimbaram. It mentions good qualities. It says, what cannot be given up by one who's serving the Lord? How can there not be peace for those who have taken shelter of the Lord? How can there not be fearlessness for the devotees of the Lord? And then Kimakaryam kadambaram. There is nothing that a person in bodily consciousness will not do. There is no crime they will not commit. They are totally bankrupt of knowledge, permeated by the mode of ignorance, by fear, stress, and anxiety. They're like madmen. They cannot be trusted. One minute he's driving the chariot of his sister, and the next minute he's got her by the hair, and he's prepared to cut this defenseless woman's throat with his sword. So what cannot be done by those who are devoid of God consciousness? So the story then, I did a little research as far as those 6 sons, one after another, the 6 sons were born to Devaki in the prison of Kamsa. And true to his word, Vasudev brought Kamsa the first son. Kamsa thought about it, and he said, I really don't have anything to fear from this boy. Take him back, raise him. We'll focus on the 8th son. But then that sly Narada Muni came, visited Kamsa. He wanted to stir the pot. He wanted to turn up the heat. He wanted to precipitate the appearance of the Lord. And the Lord appears to protect his devotees. That's the bottom line. The Lord may put up with all kinds of mischievous activities on the part of the ungodly, but when they harass his devotees, that's where the Lord draws his line. So Narada Muni wanted the point to come. He wanted to hasten that point in time where Kamsa would harass Krishna. And as we know, he sent demon after demon after demon into Vrindavan, Agasura, Pralambasura, Bakasura, all these demons to kill Krishna. So that's the point at which Krishna decided to end the life of Kamsa. So at any rate, Kamsa initially said, I don't have anything to fear from this first son, take him back. But then Narada Muni convinced him otherwise, so he changed his mind. He stormed into the prison house and vilely, shamelessly, he killed that son by bashing his head. And one after another, the first 6 sons, year after year, were killed by Kamsa. Well, who were those sons? And what was their destiny? What was their past story? And what would be their future story? Krishna explained these 4 souls and their odyssey on one occasion to Bali Maharaj. And he said during Swayambhu Manu, there were 6 demigod-like sons who were born in the womb of Orna Devi. She was the wife of the Maharshi Marichi. The names of those 6 sons, as described by Lord Krishna, were Shmara, Udgita, Parishvanga, Patanga, Shudradbrita, and Girni. Now, their appearance was in the very beginning of creation when Lord Brahma was spinning out everything, populating the universe, and things were kind of chaotic. He was bringing, from chaos, he was bringing order. But one of the things that happened during the early stages of cosmic manifestation was that in the course of creation, Brahma created such a beautiful girl. I remember she's basically, technically speaking, his daughter, even though he creates everything mentally and not physically. She's his daughter. Her name was Bach. So he started running after his own daughter, being agitated sexually. So these 6 sons, seeing Brahma running after his own daughter, they started to mock him. And as a result of mocking Lord Brahma turned around and cursed them to take birth as the 6 demonic sons of Kalanemi. And Kalanemi was the son of Hiranyakashipu. Okay? So after they took birth from Kalanemi, the son of Hiranyakashipu, they performed intense austerities to worship Lord Brahma, trying to counteract their offense at Lord Brahma's lotus feet prior to that. And for some reason, this highly displeased their grandfather, Hiranyakashipu. So he cursed his own grandsons. Again, just like because of bodily identification, Kamsa did not hesitate to try to kill his own sister. Similarly, because of bodily identification, Hiranyakashipu did not hesitate to try to kill his own son. So this Hiranyakashipu was not happy with his grandchildren worshiping Lord Brahma in secret, and so he cursed them to be killed by their own father. So what happened was Kalanemi, that's Hiranyakashipu's son, took his next birth as Kamsa. He was killed in his previous birth, also by Krishna. After Krishna killed Hiranyakashipu, he killed his son Kalanemi. But he took his next birth as Kamsa, and then those 6 sons, his own sons from a previous birth, they took birth as the sons of Devaki. So Kamsa did not realize it, but as he stormed into the prison house for 6 consecutive years and killed those 6 boys, he was killing his own sons from a previous life. In this current lifetime, as the children of Devaki, they didn't sojourn here very long, because no sooner did they see the light of day did Kamsa come in and kill them. Nevertheless, they were here long enough to have been named Hamsa, Suvikrama, Krata, Damana, Rupumardana, and Krodha Hanta. These were the 6 sons of Devaki that were killed by Kamsa, and Kamsa himself was an incarnation of Kalanemi, the son of Hiranyakashipu. So these 6 sons of Devaki were called Sadgarbhas. And after they had been killed by Kamsa, they then went to live with Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj lives in the hellish planets. He was pushed down there by Vamanadev with his 3rd step, Trivikram, pushed Bali down to the hellish planets. And even though that seemed to have been a punishment for Bali, it was really a wonderful blessing, inasmuch as the Lord himself accompanied Bali, and to this day the Lord acts as the doorkeeper and bodyguard for Bali. And because Bali is a devotee, those who associate with Bali, they get purified of all their past sinful activities and eventually are eligible to go back to the spiritual world. So the story of the 6 sons of Devaki originated with their being born, the grandsons of a demon, the sons of a demon, compounding that low birth by offending Lord Brahma, the greatest devotee within this material world amongst the demigods, getting cursed by Lord Brahma. But eventually, Krishna guided them in such a way that they ended up at the lotus feet of a great devotee, Bali Maharaj, got purified, and eventually went back to the spiritual realm. So this is the long-range plan of the Lord. It may seem, how could the Lord have allowed these tiny, innocent babes to have been killed right after birth? What unfairness. What a terrible, wicked God. God is kind. It's just that you can't see how he works his way in our lives. We only see just a little bit of a slice, and we're willing to judge or condemn or outthink God based on a tiny little slice of someone's life that's visible to us. God moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footstep on the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing will, he treasures over his bright designs and works his sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are full with mercy and will break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by people's sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet, sweet, sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. Though we can't see what God is up to, he's always working out plans for our good. Even what seems harm to us, God knows how to transform what is meant for our harm to our good. And so, although those boys were killed cruelly and viciously by the unscrupulous Kamsa, there was an irony in that. If he only knew that he was killing his sons from a previous life, still that resulted in a high elevated position for those boys. And isn't it interesting to note that, generally speaking, for those who are attached to the body, there's nothing dearer to them than byproducts of the body, such as offspring and children, right? Pum sam striyami tuni babam tayomi todi atogri hai chapta shutapta janisha mahameti. There's nothing more dear to one who's in the bodily consciousness than the byproducts of this body. The children and grandchildren are seen as the expansions of one's body. So one sees one's body as a source of happiness and contentment in this material world, and then recognizing on some level the limitations of this body. After 70 or 80 years it will no longer be. One then projects those same ambitions into the bodies of one's children, and then into the bodies of one's grandchildren. So those who are devoid of God consciousness pretty much depend upon their progeny to satisfy and fulfill their ambitions. And yet how ironic it is that in the case of Kamsa, if he only knew how it was he was killing his own sons from a previous life. And in the life in which he took birth as Kalanemi, imagine the agony. He had these 6 sons of which he was always very proud. But when his grandfather found out that in secret they were worshiping Lord Brahma, his grandfather cursed them to die and to be killed by their father in the next life. And obviously this would have been known to Kalanemi. What agony he must have felt, knowing that he was burdened by this curse to kill his own sons in the next life. And then taking birth as Kamsa, being shrouded in forgetfulness to the point that he went ahead and fulfilled the curse unknowingly and unconsciously. So considering all of these activities, unseemly activities on the part of his brother-in-law, you would think that Devaki and Vasudev were living in terror in the prison house of Kamsa. I mean, how much fun is it to live in prison in the first place? And this is a dungeon. I don't know if you've ever visited any of the cells in Gwalior. Gwalior was a great fortress to which prisoners were sent. Very dark and depressing. No sunlight. Rats and mouse cohabiting. We don't know what the exact circumstances. Presumably because they were royalty, it wasn't that bad. But again, not being able to see the light of the sun, that's bad enough. Being shackled, it's explained that they were shackled in the prison house. There were guards on the other side of that locked gate. And on top of all of that, as if that wouldn't be the cause enough for fear, every time, that event, which is most looked forward to by parents, would have been shot through with terror and apprehension, because they knew that no sooner would their children be born than Kamsa would roar in and bash their heads against a nearby pillar. So you would think that all of this would be a formula for Vasudev and Devaki to be trembling in terror pretty much 24 hours a day. And yet, because they had taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, they knew that although they didn't see a way out of their predicament, that Krishna had a way. They knew that for the Lord, nothing is impossible. That no matter how dark the situation seems, no matter how stacked the circumstances may seem against one, no matter how impressive and powerful and vicious are our enemies, still, when Krishna is on your side, who dare be against you? Krishna always has the final say. And so it may be astounding, absolutely stunning, shocking to non-devotees to hear this verse from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam regarding the mental state of Vasudev. Atenam ashtod avadharya purusham param natanga kritadihi kritanjali sharochisha bharata shutika graham varochayantam gata bi prabhavavit. It is said that Vasudev, as soon as the 8th child of Devaki was born, he appeared like the sun arising in the morning, dissipating the darkness of that prison house, flooding that prison house with light and luminescence and transcendence. The Lord appeared as the regal, four-handed Narayana within the prison house. And if Vasudev had had any apprehension, anxiety, or fear up to that point, it immediately was dissipated. Just like the rays of the morning sun dissipate the clouds, dissipate the darkness, that appearance of the Lord as through the womb of Devaki dissipated any scruples or apprehensions that Vasudev would have had about either his future or the future of that child. It is said he bowed down with folded hands, he concentrated his attention, and if you read the Krishna book or the 10th canto book, he offered beautiful prayers, well thought out, well composed prayers. You cannot offer well thought out, rhyming with meter, poetry, prayers without having a cool head. It's a fact that if you're upset, if you're fearful, you just stutter and stammer and nothing intelligible comes out of your mouth. But if you read the prayers of Vasudeva, these are from a cool hand Luke, cool hand Vasudeva, as he was touched, you might say, that whatever fears he might have had, as soon as he was touched by the light of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the prison house of Kamsa, he began to speak beautiful, conclusive, well thought out, well composed prayers and poetry glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said as he did this, he was totally without fear. Hashtag no fear. In fact, not just no fear, wishful thinking, no fear, a slogan to put on a t-shirt, but actually, although he had every reason to be fearful, although his experience would lead him to have been fearful, he was inexplicably to the non-devotees without any fear whatsoever. He bowed down, folded his hands, and spoke beautiful, first class literary jewels on behalf of the Lord. And as he did this, sure enough, the influence of the all-powerful Lord was such that he counteracted all of the repressive circumstances. The shackles loosened around the legs and arms of Vasudeva and Devaki. The doors magically became unlocked, and the guards slid down the wall, being overcome with a deep slumber, almost as if they'd been drugged. Vasudev was instructed to take the now two-armed form of Krishna over to Gokula and switch it with a girl child that had just been born from Yashoda. As he took the child in his arms in a basket out through the prison house of Kamsa and began to make his way towards Gokula, the night was stormy, just like we had our first rain in a long time here in Utah. There was lightning and thunder last night and precipitation after a long drought. So there was a terrible storm in progress there, which actually was Krishna's arrangement covering the progress of Vasudev, some miles down from Mathura to Vrindavan. He came to the Yamuna River, which was in high tide, high flood, extremely dangerous to cross this turbulent river during the stormy nighttime. But Krishna sent a jackal. And as Vasudev was looking over this river, wondering how in the world he was going to cross it. Now, if you're crossing a swift-flowing stream, you need your arms free. You need your arms so that if you lose your footing, you can kind of regain your balance with your arms. But in his arms, Vasudev had Krishna. He had Krishna in a basket, and his arms were supporting Krishna over his head. He wanted to get Krishna as high as he could because the waters were higher than normal, and he didn't want Krishna to get under the water. And so he didn't have his arms. The river was turbulent. He was wondering how he was going to cross it. And then Krishna sent him a jackal. A jackal, of course, is low to the ground. Jackal can't deal with a very high tide. So the jackal crossed the river to a place where the water wasn't that high, maybe just ankle or knee high. And so following the footsteps of the jackal, Krishna directed the steps of Vasudev. And this is a metaphor for all of our situation. Vasudev being faced with this insurmountable, uncrossable river in full high tide and flood, had no chance on his own, using his own powers, to get safely with Krishna in his arms from one side to another. But Krishna empowered him, Krishna guided him, Krishna sent him the jackal to give him the direction of his footsteps so that he could always be safe. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 14th verse. Devi hiya shumumai matam mayadara mameva yabramte mayam etam taranti te. Krishna says this material nature is impossible, darachaya, impossibly difficult to cross. And the reason is because it is my energy, because it is originally divine energy emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if the Lord doesn't want you to cross something, if the Lord doesn't want you to accomplish something, doesn't matter how many other favorable elements there are, you will not be able to accomplish that. On the other hand, if the Lord wants you to accomplish something, it doesn't matter how many unfavorable elements you are. Doesn't matter about lack of finances, lack of youth, lack of connections, lack of auspicious arrangement of different elements. If the Lord wants you to accomplish it against all the odds, you will accomplish it. And so this material nature, just like the Yamuna River, for Vasudev and his own power is impossible to cross, but by Krishna's grace, he was able to very easily cross over. By virtue of his surrender to Krishna, whom he happened to be fortunate enough to carry on his head, he was able to very easily pick us way across the Yamuna River. And similarly, the key is to surrender. You will not get respite from the storm, the turbulence of this material world by yoga, by mental speculation, by austerities. There's only one means by which one can get the power by which one can surmount the insurmountable ocean of material nature, and that is by surrendering to Krishna. If Krishna gives the order, the influence of the material energy will then subside. Krishna is behind the creation, maintenance, annihilation of the entire cosmic manifestation. So if a conditioned soul who calls upon Krishna in great need and in great helplessness, if Krishna has a track record of delivering such a cavalcade throughout history and throughout the annals of the Srimad Bhagavatam of devotees from fearful situations, then the question must be asked, how can Krishna himself possibly be a conditioned soul? Krishna is not a conditioned soul. He appears as a human being in a human-like form, within history, within time, within place, within circumstances. But all you have to do is study the story of Krishna from the authorized sources, and you'll see that Krishna can do that which is impossible for other living beings. And so foolish people, they cannot conceive how Krishna can appear just like an ordinary man at the same time as appearing within history as an ordinary man. He can be the controller of all the atoms, of all the tiny atoms, the Anur Aniyamsham, That Krishna, historical personality who walked the earth 5,000 years ago, foolish people who haven't got the training under the tutelage of a bona fide spiritual master, they cannot imagine how that Krishna can be the controller of the smallest as well as the controller of this gigantic cosmic manifestation. The smallest and the biggest themselves are beyond their conception. So it's not surprising that they cannot imagine a form like that of a human being could simultaneously control both the infinite as well as the infinitesimal. And actually it is a fact. Not only is Krishna fully present within the infinitesimal, he is the dearest of the dearest, he is the soul of our soul, he is in our heart of hearts, but he is also Kaloshmin Lokasha, he is also Yoga Aishwaryam. He is controlling the infinite, the unlimited, the gigantic, as well as the finite. Not only that, but he himself is apart from this cosmic manifestation. He has inconceivable transcendental energy by which he can control the infinite as well as the finite simultaneously, and all at the same time remain totally aloof, individual, localized in his spiritual world, so that we can love him, so that we can serve him, and so that we can look forward to going at the end of this life back to home, back to Godhead in a fearless state of mind. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as we promised yesterday we told the story of the fearlessness of Dhruva Maharaj. We promised today to tell the story of the fearlessness of Vasudev. So here's my promise for tomorrow. We're going to tell the story of the fearlessness of Prahlad Maharaj, and that's probably the best story of all. I'm really looking forward. I can't wait till we meet again, Wisdom Wednesday. Any thoughts, Rob, to share with us?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So faithfulness is fearlessness. If you're full of faith, you can't be full of fear. And of course, faithlessness is fearfulness.
Excellent. Can you just repeat that? I want to make a note here.
Faithfulness is fearlessness.
Faithfulness is fearlessness.
And faithlessness is fearfulness.
And faithlessness is fearfulness. Okay, now I'm going to use that. Do I have your permission?
Absolutely, it is yours. It is yours, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. All right, let's see what we have here in the comments section. Janatarni and Govinda Dev, Brent. No comments particularly, but just saying good morning, Hare Krishna, glories to Prabhupada, Rakesh Raghava, Rakesh Bhaktagiri, glories to Prabhupada. Vaibhavi says there was, oh yeah, she mentioned that there was the first of the fires, the summer fires, because of the excessive heat. Springville, right over the next town, had a big fire, but the rain overnight drenched the fire. And we've talked about that example too, right? No man-made apparatus can stop a forest fire. It has to take the divine arrangement of God's clouds pouring from above. So a good example of that right here in Utah Valley, where a dangerous fire just next door was extinguished by the rainfall that we had last night. What else? Sundari Priya, thank you very much for dropping in. Guru Charan Singh says Haribol. His also name is Govinda Raj. He appears under both monikers this morning. Anjali, our favorite commentator. She says, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday, and she calls me the postman. Yeah, she says, she quoted, this puts teeth to the word fallen. Yeah. Kamsa is our poster boy for fallen, killing. He thinks he's just killing the sons of his sister-in-law. And that's bad. There's nothing good about killing the sons of your sister. They're your nephews. But really, what he doesn't know, I don't know at what point he would have found out, but how devastating that must be to know that you're killing your own sons from a previous life. There's no level to which a bodily conscious person can't sink. And our poster boy this morning for that is Kamsa. My Bobby says, prior karma is the only way to understand the different situations of birth. Yes. It's not a good practice to make assumptions about people because you never know the whole history. You haven't walked in their shoes. You haven't experienced what they experienced. So hold off on the judgment, and especially just sheath your sword. Just keep that sword sheathed, because you might be wielding that sword against your own sons from a previous life. Janatarni, let's see. Saving Prahlad, the best for last. Yep, best for last tomorrow. Vasangi from Northern California says, beautiful descriptions of Krishna's unlimited powers and control of the infinite and infinitesimal, all the while being aloof. Your performance of sacrifice is bringing auspiciousness. Well, we did have the Sadhu Sangha. In fact, the last time, now that you mention it, Rasangi, the last time we had a really good drenching rain was during the Sadhu Sangha weekend, when 1,500 devotees spent 4 days chanting here. It even rained to the point of having a hailstorm. The devotees had to rent an indoor hall for days 3 and 4 because of the stormy weathers outside. So yes, because of the Yagya Sankirtana Anad Bhavani Bhutani Parjanyana Yagya Kamarshama. It said grains come from sacrifice. Grains come from rain. Rain is produced from sacrifice. So the sacrifice, the Sankirtan Yagya of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is what brings rains. And when you have rains, you don't have to water the garden. We don't have to water the garden today. Krishna watered the garden for us because our practice is to perform the sacrifice of Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.